Convicted serial killer Nomia Rosemary Ndlovu will be serving an effective term of life in prison after being handed 6 life sentences by the High Court sitting in Palm Ridge. In handing down sentence, Judge Ramarumo Munama labelled Ndlovu cruel, hellish and bullish with no hope of rehabilitation. Inside court, when sentence was handed down, my colleague, eNCA reporter Silindelo Masikane, was there monitoring the proceedings. Silindelo Masikane, now we know that the former police officer is going to spend the rest of her life in jail.
Certainly so, but we know, of course, that since she was arrested, she's already spent about 3 years in prison. But it's very light compared to what she's facing. It's basically life in prison. She got 6 life sentences for the murders of her lover as well as 5 relatives. Then she got another 10 years each for the 4 counts of fraud that she was convicted on. She got another 10 years for the attempted murder of her mother, and she got another 70 years for the incitement of violence against her sister as well as her children. And so you can see that it was a damning sentencing, one that wants to deter others from committing similar crimes. Judge Monama stating that there were no exceptional or compelling circumstances to deviate from the prescribed minimum sentence of life in prison, saying that Rosemary was not remorseful, that she continued to deny that she was the one who committed these murders, despite the overwhelming evidence against her. Let's take a listen.
On the murder count, that is count 1, 2, 7, 9, 10, and 11. Have I correctly? Yes.
Not 11, model 12.
12, sorry. That is the murder of Homo Madala, Audrey Ndlovu, Morris Mashaba, and then number 9 is Zanele Mota. Number 10 is Mayeni Mota or Mashaba, the accused, and then Brilliant Mashaba. The accused is sentenced to life imprisonment on each count.
Very damning, harsh sentence there, Silindelo. But of course, I mean, we know that the whole issue of murder came out because of her committing what was regarded by the court insurance fraud.
Certainly so. And what the state did today, Bradan, was bring a criminologist to the court for aggravation of sentencing. And what the criminologist did after interviewing Nomia Rosemary was to compile a report. And in that report, she said that because of the amount of people that Rosemary had killed, that she can be classified as a serial killer, that she showed no remorse, and that she seemingly could possibly have a personality disorder, saying that her conduct throughout the trial and committing these murders as a police officer at that time really shows the lack of empathy that she had. What was very interesting, Bradan, after her sentencing, I must add, she turned to the gallery where some of the witnesses that the state had brought were seated, and some of those witnesses were the loved ones of the victims who testified about the emotional trauma following the deaths of their loved ones. And it seemed that she was addressing one of those witnesses, saying to them that even though she was going to spend Christmas in prison this year, that next year she was going to come for them. She said this in Tsonga, and I got the translation from one of those family members. But let's just take a listen to Judge Monama again regarding the sentencing on the other charges.
On count 3, defeating the ends of justice, this relates to the tampering of the scene where the sister was killed. And this is also very serious because it was also done by a police officer. The accused is sentenced to 5 years imprisonment. On count 4, 5, 6, and 8, those are the fraud counts. The accused is sentenced to 10 years imprisonment on each count.
Silindelo, it seems to me that Judge Munama was also not convinced about the arguments in mitigation, because when an attempt was made by Ndlovu's lawyer for submitting an application for leave to appeal, the judge did not even entertain it, so to speak, but he had to follow the process, and it was very clear it won't succeed.
Certainly. You know what was interesting, Pradhan, was that when Rosemary took the stand in mitigation of her own sentence, she was very emotional. She started crying, asking for forgiveness from the loved ones of the victims, saying that even though they thought that she had committed these murders, she was maintaining her innocence, which I think also added to why she received such a hefty sentence. Is that she continues to not show any remorse. She continues to maintain her innocence despite the overwhelming evidence. And you would understand that during the trial, more than 50 witnesses, Pradhan, were brought to the stand against her. And despite the tears, the state's actually saying that her tears meant absolutely nothing, and that the victims, the loved ones of the victims, deserved some kind of justice in this matter, and that despite the fact that the state can't bring back those loved ones, they are hoping that this sentence brings some sort of closure.
Yeah, but mentioning closure, you said something earlier before the last bite we played, where the Judge Munama was talking about the different sentences for the fraud element of this trial, is that she spoke to a member of one of the loved ones of the families earlier and said, well, she'll be spending time in jail in Christmas. She's going to come back for them. Did I understand you properly? You overheard that, or did I misunderstand?
Yes, certainly. So when she was making her way out of the court, Pradhan, she turned to the gallery and addressed one of the witnesses that came today for aggravation of sentence on behalf of the state. If I understand correctly from speaking to some of the family members, she was addressing one of a grandmother of Brilliant Mashego. That was Rosemary's nephew, in fact, that she had killed, saying to Brilliant's grandmother that even though she was going to spend Christmas in jail this year, she was going to come out next year and, quote, come for her. And she said this in Tonga, and she said this quite quickly. Our viewers can catch that interaction on Twitter. I did tweet a video of it, and then she quickly was taken away by the police officers to serve her time. For now, from what we understand, it's going to be at Kgosi Mampuru prison. But during her testimony today, she had asked the court to please place her at the Johannesburg prison to serve her sentence. However, the state saying that this wasn't possible because she was actually moved from the Johannesburg prison to Kgosi Mampuru because she had actually planned or tried to kill the investigating officer in this matter. And that was actually one of the reasons why Judge Munama said that Rosemary had to be put away for a very long time, because she was a very dangerous person. And according to the criminologist, because she isn't remorseful and doesn't acknowledge what she's done, there is a risk that she may reoffend.
Is that why there was that interaction at the end there with the judge about where must she be taken to, which prison must she be taken to? And he was making a point that because in his view she's very dangerous, she needs to go to a prison where that will take care of any situation like that. So is Kgosi Mampuru, the second prison in Pretoria, the destination where she's going to begin her life sentence?
As far as we understand, and of course Judge Monama making it a point that he is appealing to correctional services that she be kept there because it is a maximum prison, stating that she's a danger to society at this point.
Okay, Silindelo Masikane, thank you very much for that comprehensive report about what has transpired in court a little bit earlier on. In case you're just joining us here on eNCA on this Friday afternoon, that's the breaking story of the afternoon. Former police officer, convicted multiple murderer. Can you believe it? Just those two together. She's a former police officer. Now she's been found guilty and sentenced for multiple murders. That's Nomia Rosemary Ndlovu, and not remorseful if at all, handed down 6 life sentences this afternoon, plus a number of other terms for the different counts that she was found guilty of. But effectively, Judge Monama sentencing her to life, and that sentencing taking place in the High Court, sitting in the Palm Ridge Magistrate Court. She's beginning her life sentence in Kgosi Mampuru II jail in Pretoria.